Hi everybody, welcome to another Monday. My name is Tara with Love Prevails. I'm here with Vanessa, a dear friend of mine. How are you, Vanessa?
I am fantastic. I lost a fuzzy.
Well, you need to find that fuzzy.
Where is it? Oh my gosh. I guess we'll get back to it.
Well, I have my fuzzy and that's all that matters. And I am here with Vanessa and I'm super excited to have her here. And Vanessa, what I do is I am doing these videos to promote Love Prevails. And with Love Prevails, I am working with people that are suffering with addiction and their families. And man, my heart goes out to their families. I have such a heart for the families because they, if they are anything like me, they're completely lost watching their family struggle with addiction, or their loved ones struggle with addiction. And I've been through that with both of my girls as well as my own addiction. But it's a tough struggle. And so that's what I'm doing with Love Prevails, and so that's why we're doing these videos. So I'm super excited that you got to do this with me.
Yes.
I have not seen you in a long time, so getting to come down here and have lunch with you was really a fun day.
It's amazing.
I was thrilled to be able to do this. We've been looking forward to it for a long time, and we're outside.
It's amazing.
How exciting is that?
Yes.
We have not been outside in forever, and we got this cool wall, and I'm loving this.
It's so fun. And there's cars, and there's life, and there's things happening right there. Because recovery happens everywhere, right?
Literally.
Yes.
Literally. Yep. Now, I've known you pretty much as long as I've been going through recovery.
Yeah.
And, I've been able to see a lot of your story. You've watched me sob through a lot of mine. And I've always had a tremendous respect for you.
Oh.
And so being able to do this it means a lot to my heart.
It means a lot to my heart too. Yes.
So
when you first met me, I was a dude. That's right. I was still a dude.
Yes.
Yeah. Gosh. What was that? Close to 3 years ago? 2.5, 3 years? 2.5 years?
It's been like three and a half years.
Yes. Yeah. Easily.
Something like that.
And definitely, I was early in my recovery journey as well. I had a few years underneath my belt, but that's right after I got released from the Department of Corrections, and I found the closest fellowship that was to my house, and felt a connection there with a lot of people, and just dove right into it. And that's where our paths crossed. And we've gone through so much since then, in both of our directions. But here we are, sitting outside, talking about recovery.
Literally two different people than what we were when we met.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. In so many ways.
Better people in so many ways.
Yes. So this has been great. I'm excited that we got to connect. I'm excited that you're doing this. This is beautiful. I love this. I'm excited about what you're doing with your career, and just I'm excited that you asked me to be a part of this.
Thank you. Now, a lot of what we talk about on here is, I like to talk about people's recovery journeys, what brought them into recovery and why they stay. And I'd like to know what brought you into recovery. Because this is not something that people just wake up and think, I'm going to start recovery.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Where do I start? How much time you got?
I've got at least an hour.
So what got me into recovery? First of all, it wasn't a one and done. Like, I didn't just magically, like you said, wake up one day and here I am and things are great and there's butterflies and rainbows. No. What had happened was, to give you a little backstory on me, for the majority of my life, I was a bartender. I worked in the bars, I was a bar manager, and I say the majority of it, not all of it. Before that, I worked in the corporate world. But for me, my addiction was in my hands. And I played in many, many different bands. I played in a lot of different bands. And sometimes we would tour. Sometimes we would play really big shows. And in those types of environments, whether it's behind the bar or playing in bands, drugs and alcohol were part of it.
Yep.
It went in. And a little bit more of a backstory is that my whole life, we were talking about over lunch earlier too, is that I grew up in a very rural country environment. To where I had to be, a dude's dude. You know, I had to bale hay, I had to work on trucks. You know, I had to resemble this identity that society in that area created. And inside, I've always been Vanessa. It's always been there. And so a lot of depression, a lot of mental health struggles, a lot of undiagnosed problems because I would never really go seek assistance. So my recovery journey, whenever I was a bartender and whenever I was a musician, people loved me. They liked me. They liked it when I poured them booze. They liked it whenever I was up on stage. And so every time I was in these environments of using drugs and alcohol, I felt accepted. And my whole life I grew up not feeling accepted because this was inside. And the environment that I lived in didn't accept this. So it was the first time in my life that I felt like I belonged. And so I dove into it. You know, I dove into it. So every time that recovery word would come up, because I knew that I had issues, I struggled with it. Oh my gosh. Every time that I'd wake up in detox or I'd wake up in jail, I'm like, all right, things are going to be different. I'll be that one bartender out there who doesn't drink. I'll be that one bass player in a punk rock band that doesn't drink. No. And so my recovery, I never wanted to let go of the substance. So I would go and have a little brief stint to where I would just a step back to where I could go and drink like a gentleman because I never really wanted to stop using because I didn't think I could create artistically being clean and sober without any substances in there. So when you ask about my recovery journey, it didn't truly start until August 21st of 2017. And that's when my active and sustained recovery started. That's whenever I started my sentence in the Department of Corrections.
Yeah, I remember you were telling us that you used to teach yoga, which I
did.
thought was super cool. Taught yoga, and I remember thinking that because you got to have something to do to, I guess, build your community. And I remember because the only thing I can relate that to is rehab. And I did the girls' eyebrows in rehab, and so all the girls, right? So all the girls would come to my room, and I'd fucking and do their eyebrows, and so that was my attachment to that. You did yoga, I did eyebrows.
I love it. It's whatever works for us because everybody recovery is not cookie cutter, you know.
No.
Like whatever works for you to help in your journey is what works for you to help in your journey. Honestly, yeah, you mentioned yoga. So for me. I did 4 years in the Department of Corrections. I received a 10-year sentence, and I did 4 of those years. I got released early because 2 of those years I was a wildland firefighter. That's right, I was fighting fires. But what really helped my recovery journey was yoga and meditation. Because for the first time in my life, I had to sit with myself. The person that I didn't like, the person that I had grown up despising because she was inside the whole time. And I didn't want to face her.
Right.
That's why I used. That's why I drank. That's why I ran from. And so that was the first time that, one, I didn't want to be accepted because in that environment, I didn't want to be the cool person in there. You know, I didn't want people to like me, I guess you could say. I was setting up barriers like, I don't belong in here. That's those people. I'm this person. When in reality, like, I deserved every bit of my sentence. There's a reason why I was there. Just like everyone else. So for me, I started attending a yoga meditation class, and I started doing it because I would walk by this room that was right by the chow hall every day, and people would be banging on the windows and saying stuff and trying to mess with them, and they wouldn't budge. Right. They would sit there, and I'm like, I don't have that in my life. How do I get that? And so I started learning to sit with myself and accept myself. So if it wasn't for yoga and meditation, I would have never had the courage to go to my first fellowship meeting, which happened on the inside too.
I remember you talking about that too.
Yeah.
You used to lead.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I mean, it was a slow start for sure.
I don't forget much. I
You do. I love this. I love it.
If you need help, I'll remind you.
Right. Gosh, because a lot happens. So yes, exactly. Oh my gosh, I love this. Yes, I started attending yoga. I started going to yoga. People would make fun of me. They would bang on the windows and try to distract us. And I got okay with sitting with myself. Okay enough to where I looked at myself in the mirror for the first time in years. I didn't like who I saw because it wasn't who was really inside.
Right.
And so I literally took the mirrors off of the walls of my houses. I wouldn't look at them. I had nasty dreads that I hid up underneath my hair or my hat because I didn't want to look at myself and comb myself. I didn't want to make myself look pretty, even though I wanted to make myself look pretty. And so, yeah, starting that yoga, meditation, starting to feel comfortable with feeling things, with setting with myself and not worrying about what other people thought. Being able to look at myself in the mirror for the first time. And this was probably a year and a half into my journey, so it didn't start right away. And then I remember getting asked to go to an AA meeting, and it was because I was out working out on the weight yard, get swole, and the person I was working out with was like, "Oh, are you going to AA tonight?" And I'm like, "No, why would you do that? That's crazy." Like, every time I had been to AA in the past, it was because the judge told me to go.
Right.
And I had to sign the paperwork. And this was the first time that somebody asked me to go on my own free will. I was like, "You're out of your mind." But they said you get to get buzzed out of yourself for an extra hour. And I was like, I get to get out of myself for an extra hour? Yes, I'll go.
I'm in.
I went, and I'll never forget it because, you know, I didn't grow up in that environment. Anytime that I did go to jail beforehand, it was because I got a DUI and I spent the night. But other than that, I didn't have an extensive repertoire of jail time. But I heard this kid, he was in there, and he was a kid to me, so he's younger than me, but he was telling a story about how he got there. And he was in tears, very emotional, and he was telling my story. He was telling about his upbringing. He was telling about his loss of identity. He was talking about the events that led up to him and working in a corporate environment and doing all of this. And the only difference between his story and mine was his victims didn't survive.
Right.
And mine did. And he's spending the rest of his life. And he was a kid. And so I was sitting there listening to him tell my story, and I got intrigued. So I went back the next week. And this time there was an individual with face tattoos, lifer, had been in and out of prison his whole life. And he too is telling my story, but with different details, but still that same struggle, the same connections. And that helped me realize, and I was already learning how to let go of the ego with the yoga, that I needed to let go of that ego, break down those barriers that I kept putting up, because the only thing that was separating me from anyone else in my entire life were those barriers that I set up on my own, barriers that I thought I was different from this person or that person.
Right.
So yeah, I started doing yoga more intensely. I took teacher training courses while I was in there. Moved to the next yard, and they didn't have yoga. So I pitched it to the warden and started teaching it. And that is the same yard that I started facilitating fellowship meetings. And it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for that yoga piece.
Nice.
I know,
I
right?
love that.
Great memory, by the way.
Yeah, I have a very good memory. So I can relate to a few different things in your story. The first of all is I have actually helped a calf. I am the midwife of a calf. I have these hands have been way up inside a cow giving birth to a calf. so I can relate to the farm.
Yes.
Well, this was on a ranch though. But yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I have literally done that. And then
What did it feel like?
It was amazing.
Oh, I bet.
It was
oh my
well,
gosh.
I've helped dogs and cats also. But I mean, that's a big difference when you got your hands all up, clear up to your elbows in a cow. And then I was dating a rancher at the time. And then he made me go to dinner afterward with all the afterbirth and everything. And I was just like, when in Rome, you do as the Romans do. It was the most amazing experience. I'd totally do it again.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So anyway, and then you had mentioned that, you did not feel like you could be yourself. And you, that you were kind of like running from yourself.
Yeah.
Is that the words you used? You were running for yourself, or you just were trying to bury yourself?
Both, honestly, yeah. Because again, growing up in that environment, the LGBTQ plus community was something that wasn't accepted, and it was vocalized by all my family members, by my friends. And even more of a backstory is that the longest I ever lived anywhere as a child was for 3 years, and I lived in Branson, Missouri, home of the Pirates. That's where I graduated high school from. But before that, I would only live with family members in wasn't mom every time. Sometimes it was, not all the time. It'd be aunts, uncles, grandmothers. I would kind of get tossed around, and I'd go to different schools, and I'd be in different environments. And every time I'd arrive, I would just want to stay there. I'd want to stay with whomever I was with. I wanted it to be home because I didn't know what home was. And every time I would get there, eventually, the dislike for that community would come out because that's the environment.
Right.
It was there, and deep inside I knew that this was me, but I struggled with it because I thought that to be gay, let's just say that, you had to like the same sex. I do not. So it took me a long time to realize that there's such a thing as a transgender lesbian. What? So I would question myself. I'd go to therapy as I was, my whole life, and be like, how can this be real? Like, I'm not attracted to dudes because they're gross and smelly, but I feel like I'm a woman. And so every time I was at my family members and I think this is home, I'm going to stay here, this is going to be the school I'm going to graduate from, and then that would come out, and so I would hide it even more, and I'd hate myself for not being what they wanted me to be. And then I'd get shipped off to another one, it would start all over again. So honestly, I thought that they knew, and they were talking about it. Who knows? Maybe they did know.
They're talking about you behind your back.
Yes, and I just wanted them to love me. I wanted to have a home. I wanted to have a closet with my clothes in it, and I wanted to be there. And that continued up through my whole life. So to run from it, yeah, I think I did run from it a lot. I would say that a lot of my active addiction stemmed from the trauma and the mental health struggles, but at the same time, I have addictive personalities. Like, anything that makes me feel good, and I mean anything, donuts, shoes, anything that makes me happy, I will dive in 100%. Next thing you know, credit cards are maxed out. I got a belly.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't get enough racks for your shoes.
No, you can't.
That's my problem. I don't have enough hangers and racks for my shoes. And
so true. So true.
So I grew up never feeling like I could be myself either, and so I do relate in that way as well. While my struggle is by way different than yours, I cannot ever really understand the struggle with feeling like you're of a different gender, but I can understand it from the standpoint of I never felt like I could be me, and I constantly felt like and was told that if you would change this about yourself, people would like you. If you would change that about yourself, people would like you. And I spent a lifetime trying to change these things about myself, and people still didn't like me. Oh. And the more I tried, the less they liked me. But when I was just me, I would be belittled, like I would be told, your laugh is ugly, just horrible things, and I was told this through my whole life, and so I never felt comfortable laughing because I felt like my laugh was ugly, and I believed these things about myself until I got much older and started my road to recovery and found who I was. And so I can relate from that standpoint. I can tell you right now, at this stage in my life, I know who I am, and I like who I am.
Yes.
And that's what I like about your story, is because I do see your Facebook posts, and you're very comfortable with who you are, and you have to like who you are, or if you don't like who you are, you're miserable, and it's just like repellent for everybody around you.
Yeah.
And when you like who you are, it's just like a magnet.
Yes, it's so true. It's so true. And again, it's funny because like what you just said really circled back around to like the beginning of my stories, going inward, and that yoga and meditation piece. It's like I had to be comfortable setting with myself and setting with my thoughts. And then that developed into, okay, I kind of like myself. On this long journey to starting to like myself, way before I had to love myself. And forgiveness had to come in there too. Like I said, I went to prison because of some really bad things that I truly don't even remember everything that happened. But in order for me to have hurt somebody to the point where I received a prison sentence, there was a lot of damage done. And for me to be able to forgive myself for the actions that I did. I mean, I remember begging the judge to give me a more strict sentence. I remember telling the parole board I wasn't ready yet, and both of them were just like, whatever, get out of here. But I truly feel that if I wouldn't have started that inward search, that I wouldn't be willing to walk into all these fellowships. I wouldn't be willing to walk into the community and be able to truly love someone for who they are, regardless of where they're at on their journey. But it all happened in here. If I can't like, then love and forgive myself, but truly love myself through all my craziness, and there's a bunch of craziness. If I can't love in here, then how am I supposed to love anyone else out there? And you're right. I'm at a point now in my life, closing on 8 years of sustained recovery, but I truly love myself for all my flaws. I truly love myself for all the journey that I went through, all the ups and downs. I truly love who I am, and it radiates. You know, when I see something shiny, I'm excited because I get to be excited for the first time. I get to be myself, and the community around me has just swarmed me with acceptance and love, and I think it's because I'm starting in here.
Yeah, makes a big difference.
I lost a fuzzy.
We gotta find it too. We'll find it. I'm not that worried about it, Vanessa. We'll figure it. I'm sure that when you stand up, it'll fall somewhere.
Fuzzies everywhere.
But I know you just it just bleeds out of you, the joy that you have right now.
It didn't. I mean, even when we first met, like I was happy.
You were quiet.
I was quiet. I was compared to now for sure. I was happy because I was learning, and I was allowing myself to connect with people that didn't look like me, that didn't come from the same background as me. You know, for me, when I started my voyage into the rooms, if you will, like I said, the judge told me to go, and I had to get the paperwork signed. And I went in with a chip on my shoulder, and I went in being like, you people are not me.
Right.
You people don't understand. We can't connect. You have your struggles that are not my struggles.
Right. You could never understand me.
Never understand me. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know where I came from.
Right.
And to be honest, like, even in the work that I do right now, I work in the recovery community. Shameless plug, I'm the Director of Community Connections for Advocates for Recovery Colorado, also on the Board of Directors for Colorado Artists in Recovery. But I started my journey...
And I'm her friend.
Yes!
Shameless plug.
Yes! I started my journey in the treatment industry. You know, I started as a tech and worked my way up, but I would always hear people say, oh, I know what you're going through. I know how this is affecting you. And the truth of the matter is that no, we have no freaking clue how it is affecting that individual. I always say all the time that maybe you and I, we use the same substances, we grew up in the same environment, everything happened to us. Maybe we got arrested for doing the same thing together, but I don't know how it affected you.
Right.
And you know how it affected me, because everybody is different. It affects us all differently. But the bottom line is that the entire community out there feels is we've all felt pain before. Mm-hmm. We've all felt that sense of loss and fear and those evil feelings that we have towards ourselves, but just loss of control. We've all felt that for something. And that's how we connect.
Yeah.
That's where we all connect. Goodness. Yeah, when I first met you, I was quiet. I was still trying to figure it out, that I was afraid that what I had gained over those few years of my recovery journey, I was going to lose if I ever tried to be my true self. She's always been there.
Yeah.
Always.
I was always happy to see you, and then I'd go sit by you because I felt safe sitting by you. I always was super happy when you would be there and be like, ugh. And I'd always go sit by you.
I feel the same way, yes. Gosh. Yeah, God, you're making me think of during those times I was trying to figure it out. To be honest with you, while I was incarcerated, that's when I truly decided that Vanessa was going to be, like, at that point in time, I lost my motorcycles, relationship was over with, starting over type of thing. I didn't have to prove myself to get my job back. I've been gone 4 years. I didn't have to prove myself to get someone to love me because no one was going to know me when I got out. I got out and was able to create the journey that I always wanted. But the thing I knew from the get was I can't do it by myself. Like, I have to find a community. And so I was...
Is your microphone on?
Oh my gosh, it's inside. Oh,
Okay.
Maybe that's where the fuzzy is. Is it in there? Nope.
I don't know. I just want to make sure we can hear
you. Good eye. But I was afraid because I was finding people that I liked. I was finding rooms that I liked, fellowships that I liked. And I was feeling acceptance for the first time by not being a musician or a bartender, that people were liking me for me. And I knew that my mental health was struggling, and it was going to continue to struggle unless I let Vanessa out of the cage. But I was still terrified to let her out because I was afraid of all those connections, all those people that I would meet, the people that I look forward to seeing each meeting were not going to accept me for who I was, and that acceptance that people were finally liking me through all my struggles and all my suffering, that it was all going to go away.
So, what makes you stay?
What makes me stay? Chocolate. No.
Well, then you're going to different things than me because mine don't have enough chocolate.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
the case.
The main thing, and what I love about my recovery journey, again, I can't do it by myself, is the community. And that's why I love that the title of my job is Director of Community Connections, meaning that I get to connect in the community, but not only for just our organization, but I get to connect with everybody in the community and show how we have to work together. For me personally, I cannot do this journey alone without allowing myself to truly connect to the community, to be a part of it, to be in it. So when I talk about myself, I always say that I am active in my long-term sustained recovery, and I always focus on the word active, because if I just go home and order junk food and watch TV and expect my recovery to happen, it's not going to happen. Like, I have to be out there, I have to do it, I have to go into the community. And not everywhere I go do I walk in and say, I'm Vanessa, I'm an alcoholic, Vanessa, I'm an addict, Vanessa, I'm an overeater, and I am. I don't do that. I find communities where I get to go and watch movies and be in a safe environment. I get to go and, ride motorcycles. I ride a Harley with a bunch of people in recovery. I get to do life, and I get to do it in a community that we're all trying to piece it together. So the most important thing for me, the reason why I stay, is community.
So something that was mentioned that when we were talking over lunch was, and I'd like for you to restate it, everybody's got something.
Oh my goodness, yes. So a lot of times whenever I'm speaking, and I talk a lot, I focus on my recovery journey, of course, because it's crucial, it's a part of who I am, but I never miss an opportunity to let everyone know that on August 21st of 2017 is when my 3 beautiful daughters and my family, those that I loved, and most importantly, the victims of my crime, they all started their recovery journey. Mm-hmm. So they have milestones to celebrate too. But when I say they started their recovery journey, it's not, I didn't say substances. I didn't say that they're struggling from, being addicted to something. They're on a recovery journey that's their own, that is unique to them. And a lot of it has to do with what I put them through.
Right.
For me personally, I have my recovery journey from the substances. I have my recovery journey from the mental health struggles that I've had my whole life that I didn't even focus on until years into my recovery journey from substances. I'm on a recovery journey from the trauma from hiding Vanessa. But I firmly believe that everyone is in recovery from something. And recovery does not have to mean substances. The family aspect that you talk about is so very, very important. They're always focused about the individual.
Yeah.
You know, my family was focused about me and worried where I was. But they didn't realize that they are in a recovery journey from all of that.
They're just as sick.
Just as sick.
It just the substances are they're more noticeable.
Yeah.
They're less excusable, I should say.
Right.
But they're just sick. Mental health. I mean, you don't have to have bipolar or schizophrenia or any of those dark mental illness diagnoses to struggle with mental illness.
Yeah.
It could be a bout of depression, you know, and I'm not a licensed therapist, but I'm not dumb either.
Right.
And so you don't, I mean, mental illness, it can be long term, it can be short term, but it's every bit as deadly and as serious as the substances.
Yeah, 100%.
It's
And
just
I mean,
more tolerated.
It's more talked about, and it's easy to point the focus on that instead of other things. You know, with the work that I do and engaging with the community, I'll meet individuals, and I mean, there's professionals that work in the community that are vocal, and they do speaking engagements, and they talk about their recovery journey, and it doesn't have substances related to it in any way, shape, or form. But it is a recovery journey that they are aware of, but they also know, for example, for me, that I can't let the mental health side fall down. I can't let the substance side. I have to focus on all of them equally, but I also have to focus on the fact that my loved ones and those around me are on a journey too. I can't expect for them to be right there with me on the same path. Like everybody's different. And so I have to be aware of and loving and kind and compassionate towards their journey just as much as each one of my journeys. If I don't treat them all equally, if I don't love and respect all of them equally, then they all start to suffer and they all start to fall apart. For me, if I don't pay attention to the community around me, and not just the recovery community, but everywhere, and realize that every person is fighting a battle that no one can see.
Yeah.
And again, when I was talking about walking into those rooms, and I don't know what you're going through, but I know where that pain comes from. I know what those struggles and that success feels like, and I know what it's like to do it on your own. But if I realize that the person I'm walking down the sidewalk that I run into, they're facing a battle I don't know, I can still show them some compassion and show them a smile. Might not let them in the closed building, whatever they want to get in, but still know that they have a journey that's just as important as mine.
Yeah. I'm a huge advocate of the mental illness first, because in my personal journey and in my personal opinion, if your mental health is not in order, then you have no sobriety. And that's my personal feelings on it. And that's how I started my journey. That's not how most people start their journey. I got my mental health taken care of, and then I realized I was an alcoholic. It usually goes the opposite way, but either way, I mean, it's both deadly.
Yeah.
Because when I was dealing with mine, I wanted to die.
Yeah.
So I was either going to take my life or drink myself to death, but it was going to happen.
Yeah.
So I am a huge advocate for getting your mental health in order, because you can be, so somebody who I'm recently dealing with, they're sober, but their mental health is so bad that they're a zombie. And so we were talking, and I told him, I said, this didn't feel good to be in your addiction, but this doesn't feel good either. And so you're at a point where it's just like, what's the use? And so you don't want to go back out here. We want to get that mental health in check, and so that you can feel what it's like to be truly happy and at peace with yourself, because it can happen.
It can.
It is. And we were talking at lunch. Once you feel that, you will do anything to keep it.
Yes. And life is still going to happen. Life is still going to happen. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be sorrow. There's going to be happiness. It's going to happen. I truly feel that I'm blessed because I actually get to feel that stuff now. I get to be with somebody and experience it with them, instead of running and hiding or masking it, or using substances to numb it, or not addressing my mental health so I don't think about it. I get to feel those. I get to grow through all of that stuff that I'm going through. I hear, again, people talk in the community that life just gets easier when you start your recovery journey, and it's not. And you slap them. No, it doesn't get easier, it gets better. And you get to learn from it and grow from it, and you get to become more experienced, but you get to experience it, which is something that I never did beforehand. I never got to experience any of it because I masked it. Yeah. And I wasn't in the right mental mindset to make wise decisions or to be there for my loved ones when they were struggling with it. I hid, and now I don't have to hide. And now, even in the hard times, I can get up and I can face it. But I know that I'm not doing it alone because of that community.
Yes. I love that, and we're going to go ahead and wrap it up.
It's done.
It doesn't have to be. I have to. Well, we can go a little bit longer if you've got more to say, for sure.
I don't know what to say.
Okay, then it's done. All right. Well, I am so grateful that you did this. I really, really enjoyed this, Vanessa.
Yes.
And I hope you guys enjoyed Vanessa as much as I did. And maybe, I'd love to have her on again sometime because I think you have a lot of really great stuff to say. And I'd love to have you back. If you or somebody you know are struggling with addiction, please reach out to me. My information is all attached to this video. You can reach out to me through Messenger. Please like, share, comment, and share the video so that we can get the message out there. There doesn't have to be a stigma around addiction. It just is, but there is help for you, and I'd love to be the person that you connect with. Your best life is waiting for you. We can find it together. We also have a YouTube channel that we are getting ready to make. I think it's already live, and so I'll have to talk to my daughter about that. I hope everybody has a wonderful week. Thank you again, and thank you.
Thank you. Yes, love, love, love. Ah!
And enjoy your week.